Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk about apologies and non-apologies. And what is going on in the world right now is seems to be an era of everyone wants an apology. And everyone wants to have this apology frame them into a way that they become some sort of sympathetic victim. And I want to give a few points here. One was, we'll just go with the recent ones. The other day there was Jimmy Kimmel. He's had his thing going on. Previous to that, actually, at the Charlie Kirk Memorial was an apology by President Trump. And yesterday there was an admission, if you will, not really an apology, but an admission of something we all knew, or we should have known. If you had your eyes open, were watching, you knew that Google censored people at the request of the Biden administration. It wasn't just Google; it was Facebook, it was Twitter, who then became X. It was all these people together, people in the media talking about things, just blatantly lying or trying to shut down commentary about things that made them feel good about their stance on things, but were hurting millions of other people. We had a situation like this with the Vatican a few years ago. They lied. They lied blatantly about the traditional Latin Mass, and so much so that then Pope Francis shut down the Latin Mass and reserved it for only special places like oratories or places that were off the beaten track and not part of the mainstream, not in parishes. They didn't want the traditional Latin Mass in parishes. So there's reasons for that. Some of them are more sinister than others, but it's not the truth. And there's been no apology. There was an acknowledgement, but no apology. So these are non-apologies, and these are all like nothing to see here, folks. This is all to cover up their bad actions. So let's go through them. Jimmy Kimmel, he stated that the man who assassinated Charlie Kirk was MAGA, and that MAGA was trying to hide the fact that he was MAGA. And even though there had already been numerous reports out beforehand about this guy's activities in the trans environment, watching and going to certain gore sites and things like this, which is another thing I'll talk about in an upcoming podcast. But these websites and communities online that try to foster hate and division and anarchy. But Kimmel, with all this stuff being addressed and put out there by law enforcement authorities, he just decided to ignore all that and go with the narrative that made him feel better, and that was, I'm the good guy, you're bad. If you don't agree with me, you're the bad guy. So he wanted to paint over half the country as being these terrible people, which was a total lie. Well, he comes out, he issues what he says was an apology, but it wasn't an apology. It wasn't an apology at all. There was no admission of guilt. There was only more gaslighting, more blame to go around. And this is what people do when they're caught. They will project onto other people their sins. You can't do that. Jesus would be laughing at you if you tried doing that. Oh, I didn't do that. He did it. It's all on him. And Jesus would say, well, I saw you do it. Oh, no, but he did it. You got it all wrong. Good luck with that argument when you come to your judgment, because I'm not going to stand next to you on that one. So Kimmel, we know he's a fool. We know that he's being used. He's letting himself being used. He thinks he's bigger than these things. He's exhibiting what we call the Dunning-Kruger effect in psychology. This is where somebody who thinks so much of themselves they don't realize their faults, or they don't realize how powerful they really are with their abilities, because they think everybody can do it, so they don't think much of themselves. Jimmy Kimmel falls into the first category of that. He thinks that he's bigger than he is and more powerful and more correct, because he feels he has to be the superior one, because that's how he feels about himself. So this is what they all want to call, this is my truth. Well, you can't have your truth. He can't have his truth. This person over here can't have their truth, because if everyone gets their own truth, then there ends up being no truth. So, that argument fails. Okay, the next one, Google. Google took orders from the Biden White House to shut down commentary about the COVID situation with masks, the vaccines, which never existed. It's not a vaccine. It's a therapeutic. And it sucks. It's killing people. It's causing secondary problems that they will not admit to. Nobody will admit to this. But it'll be discovered. Just like the Tylenol thing, if that holds out, the Tylenol thing with the birth problems and things like that with autism, it's going to take time to find if that's truthful or not, or causal. But I think they feel they have quite a bit of information right now to make these statements. So I will withhold my final opinion on this until I see what comes out of it. But I think it has legs as far as a theory, as far as what's causing autism. So I'm not going to say that's a lie. I'm going to say that's something that hadn't been tried yet. Let's see where it goes. So that's sort of a contrarian thinking with the logic, but it is a pathway to trying to find the truth. And this is what you have to do sometimes. You have to do some uncomfortable things to find the truth. So you have to test your opinions. You have to test your thoughts. You have to test your assertions you've made before, and be willing to accept that there was an error made. So, but Google took what they were told to do, and they did it. And they shut down people's businesses, caused them a lot of financial pain and mental anguish and misery for no reason. For no reason except to make one political party or one political figure in the Oval Office happy about the lies they were telling and spreading. So they made Google complicit in that. They made Facebook complicit in that. They made Twitter complicit in that. Any of these other online services, they made complicit in these things. Even worse is the executives of these companies came in before Congress and lied during congressional testimony about what was going on. So now they're saying that what they said didn't happen did happen. So now we have to see, will there be charges brought by the DOJ for the damage that these folks did and for the responsibility of lying to Congress? Because when you lie to Congress, you're not really just lying to the august members who've been elected. You're lying to the entire country. And that is not good. That is not good at all. That falls into the Kimmel class of trying to blame half the country for a senseless murder that obviously didn't happen, but came from the other side of the coin. So gaslighting continues. It has to stop. This projection has to stop. Somebody has to stand up and take accountability. And if we have to drag them out screaming and crying into the light of day, pull them out of these caves and make them face the reality, that's what we have to do. It is the Christian thing to do. It is the right thing to do. It is what God expects of us with holding our brother accountable. If he won't accept the reason, then you have to take them to another brother and you have to bring them out and say, look, we got to fix this. It's time for the justice wheels to come back around. We had Donald Trump issued his confession at the Charlie Kirk Memorial when he said that he hates his enemies. He knows it's a fault. He says, I can't help it. I know Charlie doesn't like that. He's coming down on me. He says, but maybe I can change my mind. Maybe the people here at Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk can talk to me and change my mind about that. I'm open to it. That's the only person that I've seen in the last month or so that's issued any form of apology and saying, I need help, and I will be glad to accept help to see if it changes me. The president did that, but the media doesn't give that any validity. They just keep attacking the man. You may not like how he goes about his business, but his business is working, and people are getting better. But this pain of these confessions and taking responsibility for things has to continue. We have information came out from the health department there with Bobby Kennedy, talking about what they looked into with the Tylenol issues and the steady increasing of autism, especially in our boy babies, but the girl babies, their numbers are going up crazy too. There has to be something causal about this. Either that or they're over-prescribing or they're over-analyzing this thing, and every kid who doesn't look at the pen the whole way across the scan, has autism, and then they're medicating these kids unnecessarily. We've got some questions to ask, but in response to the Tylenol issue coming out and trying to explain that there may be a direct effect between pregnant women using Tylenol and the rise in autism rates, the left came out with a response to that in the form of an ad. And their ad had a series of pregnant women all swallowing down Tylenol and trying to mock the news position that the administration and the health department was trying to put out. Over here, you got people trying to help things and help millions of babies being born, trying to say we have to dig into this and find out what it is. And when they come up with something that might lead to an actual solution to this, the other side can only come up with ridicule and demonization about this. This is part of these demons that have been loosed in the world. It's everywhere. You have to be careful. These people are just, the batshit craziness is just loose. So you have to remember who you are, stand on that rock, maintain your position, and say, no, this is going to happen. You're going to have to tell family and friends, no, and hopefully they come around to the wisdom later on. It may take a while. We got crazy people all over, and this crazy is deep. So you have to stand firm on this. Don't let them pull you off of that stone, that rock that you know you are and what you believe and what you know. Don't let them sway you on this because they have nothing to work with. And this is why when faced with the truth about things, they have to double down on lies. It's the same thing the Vatican did when they got caught in the lie about the traditional Latin Mass polling numbers with the worldwide bishops. When the numbers came back in 2018 and they didn't match up with what the lavender mafia at the Vatican wanted to put out to try to shut down this traditional Latin Mass, when the numbers came back and didn't support their narrative, they just lied about what the numbers said. Whether the Pope at that time knew what was going on, most of them don't. Okay, they don't really run the shop. It's the lavender mafia inside the walls that run things. The popes are really just figureheads at this point. They've been that way for centuries. But when they got caught in this, their response was, well, the numbers weren't, what was reported initially, but we're still, going to be working with this plan here with the traditional Latin Mass. So it was basically gaslighting that it isn't what you think it is. It wasn't what we said it was. Just keep going about business. Just ignore that. You can't. You have to pull it out, and you have to hold them accountable on these things. But there's no way to hold these Vatican officials accountable. Or is there? We'll get to that. It calls for you to withhold your monies. The collection plate, you can maybe cut it in half. After a while, they're going to get the notice on what's going on. You know, the Catholic Church is not poor. The Catholic Church is one of the largest landholders in the world. The Catholic Church has money to pay for things. They should use it. This whole thing between like the Kimmels, the Googles, the Vatican, the Tylenol ads, the attacks on Trump and conservative thinking, trying to make Charlie Kirk his own executioner because of him standing up for truth and wisdom and beauty. You know, the man never said anything racist. He had things that people wanted to call racist because it went against their narrative. And so it was just gaslighting when they wanted to call him racist. The man wasn't. He offered people every time an opportunity to talk about things and to support their position. They inevitably always failed. And even if there was a draw, it was an amicable draw. They shook hands and peacefully went about their way. A nice, proper debate, a nice exchange of thoughtful ideas between two people who disagreed. This is the way it should be. This is what politics was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be what it's become. We weren't supposed to have the lies from church leaders. And it's not just the Catholic Church. You got other churches out there lying to their people as well. And they're taking sides on these things, and they're taking the wrong sides about godly issues on things and trying to change what Jesus taught in his sermons and what the Gospels have taught and what we've learned through our traditions. So you have pastors out there trying to rewrite the script and try to change things for this modern rainbow world we're living in right now. So be careful. So I just don't think that the people on these other sides, the Kimmels, the Googles, the Vatican, the Tylenol people, how out of touch they are with reality and our human nature. They just aren't thinking about these things, or they don't care about them, or to think about the truth that comes with thinking about human nature so invalidates their concepts and their statements that they have to eliminate that part of it as well to support their lies in response. So it becomes this vicious circular reasoning that just goes on. So coming out with these, false apologies that make them into the victim on these things. I was just doing what I was told to do. I didn't do anything wrong. Well, you're not a very courageous person then either. And you're not somebody who's worth and worthy of being listened to, because you've shown your true character and your true weakness. We don't need to be following the weak. There isn't any animal in the animal kingdom that follows the dumbest member of their pack. They always follow the strongest and the most what we call experienced. Whether they're trekking on the foraging path and things like that, they usually will follow the lead female. The males sometimes don't do that because I think the lead females have something that goes with their genetic coding to remind them where the food is. And this is what they imprint. And so this is how they know how to run these nature treks and stuff like that. It's always the females leading things. It's just part of how they work. But we have these people out here making all these obviously false statements, and they're caught in these lies. But they can't back out of it and admit that they were either wrong, it was a lie, they were intending to try to do something that was wrong, and they want to be forgiven for it, and they want to be changed by it. But that's the problem. Nobody wants to be changed by it. because they want you to relent on your position, shut down, not object anymore so that they can continue with their program. While you just sit back and employ your compassion and empathy while you don't really listen to what it is that they said when they really said nothing, to accept responsibility and to say that they want to affect a change. The only person who has offered that up, and you can prove me wrong on this, pull a Charlie on me, the only person in their statements who said that they were open to change and to be convinced otherwise was Donald J. Trump. Fact check me, please. I want to know. But these people out there are too invested in their lies to change. So you need to believe them on that they're not going to change, and we know who they are. So remember who you are, and in the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.